Mario Cristobal made an admission about his wide receiver room, and here's why I agree with it.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Sunday. I'm Alex Dono, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and host of Postgame on the Hurricanes Radio Network. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On this loaded episode, we will talk baseball because the Canes are on an absolute tear to start the season. They're scoring like 30 runs a game. They're so much fun to watch. But football first. Miami has added a transfer at cornerback that caught us a little bit by surprise. We'll tell you what the deal is there. And Mario Cristobal, I want to start with some of his comments because Coach was on with Greg McElroy on his podcast that goes through ESPN, the Always College Football Show, where I think McElroy does a really good job. And an area that I want to start with, because Cristobal was asked specifically about his wide receiver room coming into this 2026 season. Do you guys agree with Mario Cristobal that the room is deeper this upcoming season than it was last year? Because we did lose some key players from that receiver room a year ago. Here's the quote from Cristobal on with Greg McElroy. Greg said to him, "It feels like you're deeper at wide receiver than last year. Is that fair?" Now, before Coach answered that question, he also wanted to shout out some of the guys that have moved on from last season. He said, "We are," and I've got to mention CJ Daniels and Keelan Marion. You couldn't have a bad day around those guys. Their energy was unbelievable. They changed that room. They were the most unselfish guys I've been around. They blocked, they threw their bodies around and impacted everybody. Now we've added more depth, Coach said. Long bodies that can run, productive players, talented young guys. But we haven't done anything. He notes, because, this group together on the field has not done anything yet. It's a great point. He says, we've got a lot of work to do. Shut up and work, Coach Cristobal said. And I'm not surprised to hear Mario shout out C.J. Daniels and Keelan Marion. I think we all got a sample of what a great teammate and how fired up Keelan Marion was when that viral video of him with his girlfriend when they were watching Miami get selected into the college football playoff, and Keelan he went off, and it was so fun to watch. Lace up your boots, going on and on. It was just really cool how fired up he was. And a senior leader on that team, Keelan and CJ, they were both seniors last year. They're out of eligibility. And CJ Daniels, man, I was telling these stories before the season even started last year. Anytime you talked to a wide receiver or a coach who was either a teammate or coach of CJ Daniels last year, they would talk about just how hands-on he was and how he would lead his teammates into extra film sessions and extra meetings with the wide receivers, even beyond the meetings that they were having with their position coach, Kevin Beard. True leaders. I'm glad Cristobal shouted them out. Marion and Daniels were two of Miami's leading receivers from this past year. Of course, Malachi Toney led the room with over 1,200 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns. Keelan Marion was second on the team in receiving yards with 746 yards on 57 grabs. That's an average of over 13 yards per catch. He scored 2 touchdowns. CJ Daniels, remember, missed some time with injury. He scored 7 touchdowns, second on the team, and hauled in 50 balls for 557 yards. That was over 11 yards per catch. And, the key losses from the receiver room from last year, chief among them, Marion and CJ Daniels. Miami also loses senior slot receiver Tony Johnson, who was kind of up and down, had a couple of good games last year. Of course, he was playing, behind Malachi Toney. So Miami lost those 3 to graduation, and they lose the following 3 into the transfer portal. JoJo Trader, Chance Robinson, they both went to NC State, and Ray Joseph went to East Carolina. So did Miami's receiver room actually get deeper? I believe Coach Cristobal is correct. If you look at the players that Miami added, first, through the transfer portal, Miami adds Cooper Barkate, who has the built-in chemistry with new quarterback Darian Mensah because they were an electrifying duo last year at Duke. Barkate with 1,106 receiving yards and 7 touchdown receptions last year. So he was right behind Malachi Toney and played fewer games than Toney did, with Toney having the deep playoff run. So Cooper Barkate comes off an impressive year at Duke. Dre Jacobs, Vandravius Jacobs, they call him Dre, former South Carolina Gamecock, had a good season last year with 548 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns on 17 yards per reception. And Miami also adds Cam Vaughn from West Virginia, who averaged 15.5 yards per reception, 541 receiving yards, and 4 touchdowns. So those are the players that Miami added through the transfer portal. And again, like it's yet to be seen how they compare to C.J. Daniels and Keelan Marion. And, again, Tony Johnson, his impact here and there was a little bit more sporadic. And then you look at the true freshmen Miami is bringing in. Somourian Wingo, who looks like he's going to be a stud possibly as soon as year 1. Milan Parris, really big-bodied guy at 6'6". That's when Cristobal talked about adding long players with big bodies. Wingo, who I think is 6'4", and Parris, who's 6'6", are both examples of that. Vance Spafford comes in, probably will be a reserve slot receiver his first season, runs a 4.33. Tyron Evans, another big-bodied guy in the receiving room. So the freshman class is as good of a freshman receiver class, I think, as I've covered in I don't know how many years. Like, Kevin Beard was in his bag in this recruiting cycle. And then, of course, the retention. Now, I think the retention, the guys that Miami kept on the roster from last year at receiver, this is really important because they were all really young last year. Now, Malachi Toney, he was 17 years old when the season started, and that didn't stop him from being one of the 2 or 3 most productive receivers in the entire country. So he's a unicorn. But, yeah, Malachi Toney is back heading into his second year. How much better can he get? We'll find out. Josh Moore is coming back in his second year. Had some really good moments last season, including dominating the USF game. He's a big, long target at 6'4", 220 pounds, exceptional at grabbing contested balls, and he can also run. And Dalen Upshaw, who is extremely fast, shifty, and explosive, also comes back for his second year. So not only did Miami retain 3 really good receivers, but they retained guys who are all super young heading into their second year and will likely just get better. So yeah, looking at what Miami has in the receiver room this year versus last year, I think Cristobal is 1,000% correct. There were obviously players in that room who performed exceptionally well, including Malachi Toney, who's back, but I do think the receiver room has gotten deeper heading into the 2026 season, and you can expect with a guy like Darian Mensah coming off a ridiculous year with over 3,900 passing yards, 34 touchdowns, just 6 interceptions, he's going to find a way to spread those footballs around. So at wide receiver, Miami is in really, really good shape. Now, another thing that Mario Cristobal was asked about, Greg McElroy said to him, hey, with Bain and Mesidor gone, how do you identify the next Miami-style disruptor on the edge? And Cristobal's answer, you want monsters, game wreckers, he said. Those guys were groomed over a couple of years and changed how people played us. Coach Heatherman's system allows those guys to play fast and free. If we identify the traits, right, motor, physical play, reckless with your body, but intelligent from an assignment standpoint, we go after them. We've gotten longer and more explosive. We feel confident in the guys we've recruited. Now we want to cut them loose and play ball. And, you guys know, and I know I'm not the only one who feels this way, I think Hayden Lowe, heading into his second year, missed the entire true freshman season with a knee injury. Lowe is a guy who's primed to be a breakout candidate this year. Someone who we've already gotten to see, like Marquise Lightfoot, is going to step into a bigger role this upcoming season. I think he's going to make the most of that. Was really good this past season. Armando Blunt is coming off of a really good year, and Miami adds Damon Wilson II, who was one of the top pass rushers in the SEC last season. So, again, you're trying to replace future first-round draft picks. Bain for sure. I think Mesidor can also sneak into that first round. These are generational-type pass rushers at Miami. They're not easy to replace, but Miami now has a talent factory when it comes to the defensive end room, and you also have one of the more respected defensive end coaches in the country, the Pro Hall of Famer Jason Taylor, teaching those guys. I know throughout the week coming up, I do want to talk more about some of the comments that Mario Cristobal made late last week, because he really gave us, I think, a window into what made the 2025 Hurricanes tick. Like, what was different about that group of young men and that group of coaches even that allowed these guys to make that deep run through the college football playoffs? So we'll talk about his comments more throughout the week. So you saw this on, I guess it was on Saturday night. Yeah, Saturday night. Miami lands a new cornerback who transfers in. I didn't know at first, like, what the heck kind of college this was. It's a junior college that has produced some players before. Allen Hancock College in Santa Maria, California. Takai Aziz, who is a cornerback from there, has transferred to the University of Miami. And, you know, at the JUCO level, and listen, Miami's done really well with JUCO guys. Markel Bell, that was a former JUCO offensive tackle, right? Bryant McKinney back in the day, JUCO. Jeremy Shockey was JUCO before he got to Miami. So Miami has struck gold out of the junior college circuit before. And this cornerback, Takai Aziz, posted 3 interceptions at Allen Hancock College last year, and 2 out of his 3 INTs went the other way for pick sixes. And from what I can tell, because there's not a whole lot of biographical information available on this player, because I don't think he was highly recruited out of high school, hence starting his career at JUCO, but it appears he went to the same high school, St. Joseph's in Santa Maria, that Darian Mensah went to. So I'm going to assume that they are former high school teammates, and perhaps Mensah put in a word for Takai Aziz. Hey, think about bringing this guy in for the defensive backfield. I expect him to play a depth role. Like, I don't think Aziz, you know, he'll maybe prove me wrong. Again, I've never watched this player before, but I don't expect him, you know, to take Xavier Lucas's job or O.J. Frederick's job or anything like that. I don't think he's on scholarship at this point, but a really important depth piece, because you never know, right? If you suffer injuries in that defensive backfield, we've seen it happen before. We saw it happen last year. It's good to have quality depth, and this is a player who obviously excelled in the junior college circuit because when he did hit the transfer portal, he has gotten some power for buzz before ultimately landing at Miami. So, Takai Aziz, welcome to the U. We'll talk some baseball when we come back. Our good friend Raymond Bourg, who I know has been living that life for these past few weeks since Miami baseball started, and they are shellacking everybody. You want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing. And yeah, the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's the stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours have just made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Folks, when you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is the job for Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support Locked On Canes by saying you heard about Indeed on this pod. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. And if you consider yourself an everydayer, make your status official by joining the Everydayer Club. Hit that all-access tier and get exclusive episodes, one-on-one texting, exclusive newsletters, and so many more great benefits. Go to lockedoncanes.supercast.com and join that all-access tier today. So from the all-access tier to the absolute tear that Miami baseball is on. And we're having this conversation with our very good friend Raymond Bourg at GA Cane Fan. They're still playing the Sunday game at the time we're having this conversation. And last we checked, was it 22-1 Miami against Lafayette?
Top of the seventh.
They've already scored over 20 runs twice this season. They had a game where they won against Lehigh in the opening series, 27-3. They've had, games where they've scored 14 runs twice against Lafayette, 17 runs against Lehigh. I mean, these bats, Raymond, have really stuck out to me. The pitching has been better so far as well, but this team looks like they can hit against just about anybody.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one thing I'm going to add on to from last Sunday against Lehigh. They scored a Miami Hurricane baseball record, 15 runs in 1 inning. That is incredible. I mean, the thing is between this, we've done this for 3 years. This team is the most offensively strong I've seen probably since 2020 because, they would struggle against some of these a little, but they would eventually win. But they are completely blowing them apart. The Lehighs and Lafayette's, we know they're Lafayette's number 2 they're number 2 favorite in their conference to win it. And they also beat UCF on Wednesday, which is a top 5 club in the Big 12, and they came back and won, I believe, 8-7. So they're playing very well this season, but their bats are on fire, and it's all about one man. That's Kube, top 20 draft pick for Major League Baseball his junior year, possibly his last year playing in Miami. But he's now got a lot of help. He's got Alex Sosa, catcher transfer from NC State, who's been doing really well. And I'm gonna go we go a little early here. A guy to keep an eye on, freshman Alonso Alvarez from Heritage High School in Brentwood, California. He's a catcher, but he's also playing DH, and he's been whacking the ball. Before this game, he's already had several home runs. He's leading a few categories. He looks very good this season, so I think you're going to see him, and they have a ton of freshmen. It's really difficult to see because of the transfers. Kind of expand a little bit as well. They have 21 new players on this squad from last year, and they had very few seniors. So there's a lot of transfers in and out. I think the best quote I read was in the Athletic top 25. Coach comment about Miami. I don't know any of these players, but I know they're going to be good. And he was right.
He certainly has been right about that so far. And so, people will bring up, hey, like the toughest game they've had so far, a midweeker against UCF, where they overcame adversity in that one. They were down 5-0. They got the game to extras. They had a 2-run walk-off in the 13th inning, a walk-off home run, which was fantastic. So, they haven't been playing like the top-tier competition yet, but that's going to change next weekend, Raymond, because they're going to take on the Florida Gators. What do you want to see this team accomplish in that series against UF?
Continue what they're doing right now, getting runs on the board, making contact with the ball, getting extra base hits, moving the runners around, and keep their pitching strong. They're doing very well. The biggest problem last year to Miami was closing. They seemed to blow leads. They just couldn't hold on to them. I mean, we were only a couple lots away from the World Series, the College World Series. Still was a great run considering what we thought it was going to be at the end of the season. We thought they were going to get, Alabama was going to win that first round, but our Southern Miss, and they held on and they played really well. A big transfer was Ryan Bilka. Forgive me if this is pronounced incorrectly. He was a transfer, All-American. He's now All-American third team preseason. So they finally got their closer, and he's been doing really well so far. According to West of the game before this, he has already he's had he's pitched in 3 games, and he's got a couple saves. So he's doing very, very well. So we have a bullpen. We haven't had a bullpen since I can't remember when.
Yeah, and I can imagine because the Gators are coming to town this year, so it's going to be 3-game series at the Light next week. The Light is going to be crazy, and I don't know what the home specialty shake is going to be. You see those specialty shakes that they do, Raymond? I don't know if they're going to put gator meat in the shake next week or something, but whatever it is, I'm going to have to taste one, hoping that we beat the Gators next week.
I've had gator meat. It's kind of gamey, but I would not want that in my shake. But then again, I want crab. And they played BC, and they did it as well, too. And that guy will do that, who owns it. He's from Boston originally, so he'll do that kind of stuff. But I'm good with vanilla or chocolate. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. I like to keep it simple. I like to keep my, they had bacon in a shake. It's just like, it's not really my thing. I'll keep it to the classic flavors, maybe throw some hot fudge in there or something, but I keep it relatively simple. All right, so in terms of the ACC this year, Raymond, because I really haven't put a whole lot of research into ACC baseball yet this year. Miami's going to open up the ACC part of their schedule a couple Fridays from now, March 6th, in a series against Boston College. Then they're going to have a lot more ACC the rest of the way. Like, who looks like they're going to be good in conference this year? Like, who's Miami's primary competition?
It's going to – first of all, we'll start off right with the hometown team here is Georgia Tech. they've got a loaded batting guys. Their lineup is just really incredible. Maybe one of the best out there. They got Drew Burrows, a junior. They've got Ken Smith, who's very good as well too. And Ken Schmidt actually had the baseball batting average title last year for the ACC. The question is going to be for pitching. So Tech is going to be very much not only just to win the ACC, but they're projected by a lot of people to go to Omaha as well too. The other one seems to come out. I'm just going to go on top 10. University of North Carolina, excellent pitching staff, but they've lost 6 of the 7 of their batters from last year. They graduation or transfer or major league draft. So that's going to be a North Carolina team that's always going to be tough. They play well. And of course, you got the usual suspect, Florida State. Florida State, Miles Brand, 19 home runs last year as a true freshman. You've got Trey Beard, an FAU transfer who was pitcher of the year in the Conference USA. So he's also a transfer, which FAU and FIU are starting to become now looks like minor leagues for Miami, Florida State, and probably for the Gators as well too as transfers. So those are ones are going to be very, very good. But the question with Florida State is they didn't click. They seem to have a lot of talent, but they couldn't get it together. I expected a lot more out of them last year. A lot of respect for their manager. It just didn't click last year. Especially at the end of the year with the tournament, they just didn't do very well. We'll see what happens this year.
Now, last year, Miami was so close to get to Omaha. They were 1 win away. Is your expectation this year into the college baseball, to the World Series? I was going to say college baseball playoff, into the College World Series, and can this team make a run?
Right now, they're playing very well, but to make a run is very difficult since it deals with seeds. But yes, I can see them as they should at least get to the Super Regionals. As far as getting to the World Series, it's a very difficult year this year. There's a lot of great teams. So that's my expectation is that. And we really railed on this Miami coaching staff the last couple of years. I was wondering if they were going to make it. The buyout, is Miami baseball going to come back? I got to quote Mario. This is the golden era of Miami Hurricane sports. Basketball, football, maybe baseball. They're starting to come together. They're hitting like this. They're going in the right direction.
I love it. Well said here as always by our guy, Raymond, a.k.a. G.A. Kane fan. We'll be chatting with Raymond throughout baseball season, especially if Miami can get something done against the Gator next weekend. Oh, I'm going to be so jacked up. Ray, thank you so much, my friend, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
I love it. We'll talk to everybody next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.